I am Effie, and I'm a systems engineer at Logicea. We are a team of engineers in Athens, Greece, developing web applications for established companies as well as startups. So some of our projects are being shipped to the client, so it's up to the client to run them in their infrastructure, while other projects are run on our own. I joined the team about a year and a half ago, and the reason was quite simple. The team was growing, more projects were coming in, and the development team was not able to support this growth system-wise. So they needed someone to create an infrastructure and bridge the gap between production and development. So since this person right now, it's me, we can say that it's run 100% by women. I have worked in a number of companies before, and I always had to deal with somebody else's decisions and who had done before me. So it was the first time that I could start something new without carrying someone else's burden with me, which was the challenge. So, and this talk is about what I have learned through this experience and what I think someone should know before they take this task. And nothing is absolute because infrastructure is not an equation. It's an equation with many, many solutions. So most of us, we started by joining a team, which is how it should be. When you join a systems team, it's likely that there is already an infrastructure running there, and there are rules to run it. And you have people to share your knowledge with, share your ideas, share the responsibility. And moreover, the members of the team who are there before you will guide you to learn the ropes of their systems and will answer any questions you may have. In time, you might specialize in something. You might become the database specialist. You might become the configuration management specialist. But most important, in a team there is polyphony. Polyphony is a musical term in English, but in Greek it means many voices, so many opinions. So, when you're the sole systems engineer, you will do most of the work alone. You will talk to yourself, you will discuss with yourself the pros and cons of a solution, and you will be responsible for it. And you're in this odd position where for the development team, you are the specialist, you are the network specialist, you are the Linux specialist, you are the database specialist, but in the systems world, you are a generalist because you do a little bit of everything. And I will get to what everything is. So, and in time, you will become important, not that important, but important. So, what is interesting about taking this job and being the only systems person is that it's a coming-of-age experience. It's the time for you to make all the decisions and be ready to support them. Moreover, being a startup where money and time are tight, you will have to be creative and resourceful to work with whatever you have right now in front of you, because putting more money and time to the problem is not an option you have. Also, depending on how late to the party you are, you will know pretty much everything that's going on because you are the one building everything. So this role, you should not take it lightly, and it should not be taken lightly, because your experience and what you bring is what will set the standards for the future. For instance, if servers keep failing because of your poor administration and the disks are getting full all the time and everyone is like, well, the disks are full again, this is not acceptable. And even if your colleagues find it acceptable, you know it's not. So another important aspect is that your job is to be the facilitator between development and infrastructure. It's up to you to make the infrastructure accessible to the developers and be there to help them learn how to use it, be there to answer any questions. And if you don't have an answer, you should be able to look it up. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Lastly, your experience is the one that's going to help them build the future. And it's something that should not be a burden right now, but you should keep it in the back of your head. So before you start digging, you have to take some time and become aware of your surroundings and their mechanics. Your number one concern, of course, is the product. What components does it have? How they interact with each other, how they're deployed to production, how fast is this thing growing, what are the plans for the future? And moreover, you will also have to get a clear picture of what you have right now. How many servers there are here, what procedures are in place, which ones have been done manually, and what bad habits the team has picked up over time. For example, let's say a really common thing is we have 10 servers on DigitalOcean, we have 5 servers in-house, we are sync from our PCs, and we restart the services, and we do that by logging in as root. So you have to go over everyone, gather all the Lego pieces, and just put them in your bag. So these are the key elements of your infrastructure. This is a little bit of everything you will have to do. Choosing the right software and the right processes for those elements will help you to get to the ultimate goal, which is to sleep well at night because you're alone. So configuration management and orchestration. You should have that in your mind from day one, that you should be able to run tasks across your infrastructure in real time. You should be able to set up servers quickly and on demand, and having machines dine on you should not be a real problem. Provisioning environments, setting up environments on demand, like development, staging, production, is highly important, and the developer should be able to deploy to any environment painlessly. And of course, this includes deploying to production with minimum downtime and risk. Monitoring, alerting, logging, and metrics, this has been extensively analyzed, so I don't have to add anything, but you will need them as early as you can to prevent an outage, to investigate an outage, and to get paged when there is an outage. Update management. You have to know when to upgrade, and if something affects the developers, you should discuss it with them. Backups. So we tend to strap our backups on the back of flying unicorns, but sadly we don't give it much attention. So what's important here is to know you know how to use the backups you have in case something bad happens. If your DB is 500 gigabyte and your backup is a huge encrypted gzipped archive, which is on some server somewhere, it's not exactly useful. And lastly, security, which is a tricky one. You can start off by using common practices like not having everyone logging in as root like they used to, or maybe have different username and passwords on databases, on staging and on development, or production. So, after a while in, you will have enough data. You will know how most of the things work right now. You have your big picture, and which is still a bit fuzzy. And the hard part is, of course, to know where to begin. The developers will help you prioritize according to their bottlenecks and their immediate deadlines, which brings me to the next 2 points. Start with familiar tools and avoid complex solutions. It's important in the beginning to use tools you already know how to use. This is the toolbox that you bring to the table, and you bring it to every table you go to. For example, when I joined the team, right now we're using SolStack and Fabric to provisioning and orchestration. And because we needed a provisioning tool that is masterless and can run and I was already familiar with SolStack, so it was easy for me to start off with simple automations like package installation, user management, stuff like that. The team was already using Jenkins to build stuff, but not deploy, so I used Jenkins to deploy to different environments. And you should know that, we all know that having Jenkins run a stupid bash script is better than having humans running commands. And this bash script will turn into a pipeline. This pipeline, you will abstract it, and you will use it to deploy more applications. And eventually, our developers right now, of course, they are pushing to production automatically. And, tools. If you can develop your own tools, of course you should. But avoid trying to fit a solution to your problem. This takes time sometimes. And from now on, your time will be divided between bringing the infrastructure to a manageable state and assisting the development team with their deliverables. You can achieve some sort of a balance between those two by going through small iterations. And each time you make something better, even better and better. So eventually, you will start standardizing how things are going to be done from now on, like to, in our case, the steps to set up a new project are this, this, and this. Because this would bring consistency, and consistency will help you automate. And we all need automations. So keeping your systems tidy and your code tidy and consistent is your true ally. Right now, I build all my application servers for different projects using the same templates. So there is nothing special I need to remember about a certain server or a certain project. And I can find any information I may need for a project because it's right there in my repo. And since I use that information to build servers, I can't stress enough how important consistency is from day one. It will help you keep your sanity. And also, your company's clients are not your immediate users. Your immediate users are the developers. So you must come up with processes that they can understand and use. If a process is really complex and requires something that it's outside their area of expertise, they will forget about it. They will ask you again, or they will make mistakes that you will have to fix. It's your task to hide this complexity. Finally, if a process you have in place is not working anymore because what was standard is not anymore and you have more information coming in, you should go back, revise it, make it fit, and move on. And as I said, you're going to go through many iterations. So, research. If consistency and standard processes are your ally, time is your enemy. And you should be careful what you're going to research and why. Do you really need real-time monitoring right now? Do you need like Esinga right now? You have only like 10 machines or something. Maybe it's more preferable to use some simple tools like Munane or Monet to get you started, and then you are going to do another iteration and find other ones. Because while you spend time researching something, other things are going to be falling behind. And if something you have been working so hard on it's actually not working out, you should just let it go and maybe pick it up sometime later. No matter what you do, failures will happen, and you should not be hard on yourself for not seeing them happening, because that's part of the learning process that we all go through. An outage happened, you and the developers found out why it happened, fix it, and move on. Thinking ahead and designing for tomorrow, unfortunately, comes with experience. But you can start off with some simple assumptions, like we have right now one database server, and so in the future we might need a few more. We all hate documentation, we all do, and we tend not to do it. But I think it's useful to document whatever you do. Maybe organize them in tasks, so group them then in tasks. So you always know where you are, what you did last week, and what you believe can be done in the week coming. Of course, interruptions will come in, but anyway, because time is a beast. And any given time, you have some sort of an idea, or you see something you don't like, just write it down and do it later. And you can't remember everything. So And people can't remember everything as well, and they tend to ask you questions about them. So having a shared wiki and you can directing people to it will save everyone time. And as I said, we can't remember everything. We should take the time to write some readable code. And it's hard, I know, but you should at least try it. Common mistakes we do in our everyday life. Always saying yes and always saying no. I've seen that in junior engineers, mostly when the CTO asks for something, they just run off and do it. You should filter whatever they're asking you and know why you're saying yes and know why you're saying no. Sorry. And especially when it comes to technical topics, not everyone can be always right. Another common mistake is over-engineering. As I said, you want to keep the future in the back of your head, so you might fall into the rabbit hole of over-engineering and solving a more complex problem than the one you have right now in front of you, which is going to cost you time. Just try to always know the needs you have right now. Failure to decode information. Unfortunately, the developers don't always know how to ask what they ask you. They don't know how much information you need, so they might give you less information. Learn to make the right question so you can get the right answers. And lastly, underestimation and assumptions. It has been covered as well a lot. Like saying, of course, our machines can run the load. I'm pretty much sure it has to do with our Mouzeli complex, but anyway. So, working in a team, we are all terrible at managing interruptions, but it's something that comes with the job. So the first step is try not to get pissed off every time you're interrupted. And compromise. You and the developers will not always agree, and they won't always agree with you, but be approachable, let them talk to you, let them explain what they want, and meet them halfway, negotiate with them. Very essential, share your knowledge and train. Instead of being angry that someone is a web developer and you realize that they know the difference between TCP and UDP, take the time to explain it to them and maybe organize presentations to improve their system skills because you will get less questions afterwards. And organize workshops to show them how to use the tools you have created. And above all, don't be difficult to work with. If people prefer, if the developers that work with you prefer to grab a pair of scissors and start running around the infrastructure because they just don't want to deal with you, you have a huge, huge problem. No matter what, don't forget, you can't do their job and they can't do yours, so you have to respect that. And respect is what you're gonna get. So I don't have much to say about becoming a team because we're not a team yet. But what I can say, though, is that you have built your infrastructure, it's your baby, it has its rules, its mechanics, and it's going to be hard for you to let someone else run it with you. And also, my advice is to look back in your experience, recount what you liked and what you didn't like in other teams, and start a new team fresh. Summing up, it can be done. It's hard. It's really hard because you're just one person. Go through iterations and improve every time whatever you were building. Let everything mature. Let yourself mature. Let the infrastructure mature because you can't have like a full-blown running infrastructure from day one. You may know where you want to take it, but it's going to take time. Your role is to save time, and automation is the only tool that will save you time. Always say we, because you don't have a team yet, so you are part of the development team, and you have to keep that in mind every day. Embrace your failures and mistakes, learn from them, along with the developers, And again, don't be arrogant. So, and if the development team and you're a band, you're not the frontman, and don't act like the frontman, you're probably something like the bass. You play the bass. And that is all.